One of the key matchups I think would be, Jalen Hurts against that Green Bay Packers defense that's a little revamped.
Okay, so let's get into that, right? I think it starts with their defensive line. They got guys like Rashawn Gary on there. Who else they got out there? They got Quay Walker at linebacker. They got Kenny Clark at DT, right? I think, even beyond just the Jalen Hurts aspect of it, I think about Cam Jurgens and Mekhi Becton, excuse me. Cam Jurgens and Mekhi Becton. They're technically the new guys as far as the starting lineup goes on the offensive line, and they're the heart of the offensive line, right? We know what Dickerson's going to do. We know what Lane and Mailata's going to do, but Mekhi Becton, the right tackle turned right guard, and Cam Jurgens came in as a center, played right guard last season. Now he's back to his natural position, right? Let me get your perspective on just that matchup between Mekhi Becton, Kenny Clark, Cam Jurgens, just the overall interior of the offensive line versus that interior of the Green Bay Packers defensive line.
So I think we'll be good as the game progresses. So, with the offensive line and the offense in general, I think we got to be mindful that, those guys didn't play in preseason. We got to be mindful. And this is the downside of not playing in preseason. Of course, the bonus is keeping guys healthy, keeping key guys off the injury report and things of that nature, having key guys start fresh. But the downside, in my opinion, would definitely be, the lack of reps with that starting offensive line as a unit. Now, we could see some false starts. We could see a few blown assignments. We could see guys just not knowing where to be because this is week one, and these guys haven't played at all together in preseason. Now, this is Stoutland University, so I expect these guys to snap out of any rust they may have pretty fast. But I think the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line will always have the advantage no matter who we're going against until I see otherwise. I know we're without Kelsey, but I got a lot of faith in Cam Jurgens. He was drafted for a reason. He does have starting experience. Now, I would be a little iffy about Cam Jurgens if Cam Jurgens was coming to this situation as a rookie taking over for Kelsey. But Cam Jurgens got some starts under his belt playing next to Kelsey, learning the game from Kelsey, learning how to be a pro from Kelsey. As far as Mekhi Becton goes, I'll say Mekhi Becton has all the upside in the world. It just didn't pan out wherever he came from. You know what I'm saying? Mekhi Becton is a high draft pick. Mekhi Becton got the size, athleticism. And, I think the offensive line could, in a lot of ways, now, don't listen, this might be a hot take, could be better than the offensive line played last year.
Yeah, I actually might be in line with that because when you just think about the amount of size they have, right? Again, Mekhi Becton, Lane Johnson, Mailata, Landon Dickerson, then you got Cam Jurgens. He's younger. And people forget, we actually saw Cam Jurgens play a lot of center in the preseason in his rookie year. He played the entire preseason at center. And we saw flashes of what he's able to do, the ability to get to the second level, the ability to just swing out and just dominate in the open field, with the ball carrier behind him. So I think this offensive line has all the potential in the world to be one of the best, if not the best offensive line in the NFL. Even without Kelsey, I still think this offensive line is top 5. And you said it best, right? Jeff Stoutland University, how much can you really bet against that? And when you have a guy like Mekhi Becton making it very clear about how he's in this, he's never been in a place of peace like this in the NFL. It's so hard to really reach your potential with the Jets. Let's be honest. They're an organization that's kind of always been in their own way. But nonetheless, right, more matchups, just keeping it on the Eagles offense and the Packers defense, right? Some more matchups that do stick out to me is the A.J. Brown, Jair Alexander matchup. Now, Jair Alexander, all-pro, Pro Bowler, we know what he do, right? But we also got a boy in Philly by the name of Arthur Juan Brown that get busy. You feel what I'm saying? So when you think about that matchup and just the overall matchup of our receiving core versus their DBs, how do you process that? How do you think we will fare with that?
I think it's just too much firepower at this point. The Jahad Dotson thing will give me the edge over any secondary in the league. You know what I mean? And just to go back to offensive line a little bit, I will like to say this. We did add a brand new captain to the offensive line room as well, which is giving me more faith. You know what I mean? Jordan Mailata being the captain now lets me know that guys are stepping up on the offensive line in the absence of Kelsey. But, back to wide receiver, A.J. Brown is always going to draw that top guy. You know what I mean? He's always going to draw that top guy. We know that. We know A.J. Brown is the highest graded wide receiver in single man coverage. You can't roll coverage to A.J. Brown no more. That was guys was able to do last year. You roll coverage to AJ, you roll coverage to Smitty, you got to pick your poison. I like our wide receivers against that secondary. Now, they do have McKinney, right, from the Giants now, right?
Yep, they just signed him.
Right, they do have McKinney, who has a lot of experience playing against the Philadelphia Eagles. You know what I mean? So I'm pretty sure he's dropping some jewels about Saquon, dropping some jewels about Jalen Hurts and his tendencies. But, if you give Jalen Hurts time, it's a wrap. So I expect these guys to, bring pressure, because the stigma right now is that Jalen Hurts can't beat cover zero. But, now we have Kellen Moore. So we got to answer for almost everything that you could do for real. So I like our matchup. I like our wide receivers against their secondary. I like our corners. I'm not going to talk about our corners yet, but I like their corners to be a little overzealous. You know what I mean? It's a lot of big names over there. You got 2 top 100 guys. You got a Jahan Dotson now coming out of the slot. Is Xavier McKinney going to be responsible for Jahan Dotson? That's not really a good matchup to me, for real. And if it is, then that means that's a guy that's occupying, the time of the safety that's supposed to be worrying about being the last line of defense. So it just goes good. It just goes good for us, man. We got to have a game plan that, isolates our guys and put guys in positions to win. Smitty on a linebacker, Dallas Goedert on a linebacker. It's a lot of things we can do to affect the onesies and twosies that they have on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and the thing is, although you hear some names sprinkled on that defense, like I said, Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Xavier McKinney, Jair Alexander. If you want to throw in Eric Stokes in there, sure. I mean, he hasn't really been able to stay on the football field because of health reasons. But the reality is that defense actually was mediocre last year, regardless of the names they did have. That defense in 2023, that Green Bay defense, they were 13th in opponents' points per game or points allowed. They were 13th. They were 22nd in total yards allowed with allowing 345 yards a game in 2023. They were 28th in rushing yards allowed, damn near dead last in the NFL. Right. And they were 13th in pass yards allowed. So that team, with all those names on that defensive line in particular, right, with Quay Walker at linebacker, they couldn't stop the run at all. At all. So now you add in Saquon Barkley into the fold, right, with this offensive line. You got Dallas Goedert blocking, doing his thing. And then you got a young guy like Johnny Wilson, who's very capable of blocking. A.J. Brown is a willing blocker. Devontae Smith is a willing blocker. I think the Philadelphia Eagles game plan on offense, at the very least, in week 1, I think they're going to be Saquon Barkley centric in week 1. What's your thoughts on that?
I think you almost have. So I think you have to involve Saquon Barkley week 1. You know what I mean? You got to keep that defense honest. It's going to be a lot of odds on Saquon Barkley every time he's in the backfield because he is Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley never ran behind an offensive line this good in his National Football League career. For real. So I think you got to kind of feature Saquon Barkley to an extent. But, this is the thing. And I see a guy in the comment section, Jimmy Hoffa. He's saying, you know what I'm saying? He's saying, oh, we played them last year, this, that, and the third. But this is a different Philadelphia Eagles roster, a differently coached Philadelphia Eagles team. Yeah, you played us last year, buddy. But this is an Eagles team that I'm expecting.
We played them in 2022, not 2023.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
And we smoked you. So what are we talking about?
You know what I mean? We almost broke Aaron Rodgers' ribs. You know what I mean? Whatever you got to do to get the win. But if you're looking at film from last year, you really can't base anything off of what's going to happen this year. I'm expecting the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts to be under center 14 times. We was under center 14 times all of last season. I'm expecting us to be under center 14 times on Friday. You know what I mean? This is a new look Philadelphia Eagles offense. So, whatever you think you played in the past, we can't have any remnants or any scent of being the same team. So, you know what I mean? If it's anything that look the same, then that means Nick Sirianni is still way too much involved, because the way Kellen Moore does things is in a way to scheme up guys for matchups. Listen, you played Kellen Moore. I don't know when the last time you went up against Kellen Moore as Green Bay Packers fans, but this is different, man. Kellen Moore got the most cerebral quarterback. Kellen Moore never had this many weapons. Kellen Moore never played with a team that got this much of a new age legacy with him. You know what I mean? This team got pride. So I think it's going to be extremely different. But back to your Saquon question, you got to feature him. That's how you unlock play action. You got to use him in a screen game. You got to put the fear in the heart of these guys. You got to let this offensive line get out and get to the second level.
And another thing about Green Bay, they fired their DC from last year. That's how bad that defense was. Mm-hmm. That's the part that they don't want to talk about, right? You had to fire your DC. I don't care how far you went in the playoffs. I mean, you did well, right? Y'all offense turned up on the back end, but y'all defense was a liability. That's the honest truth.
Who's their new defensive coordinator now?
Brought in this DC from Boston College. You went to college route for your DC. I mean, look, anything can happen. And a lot of the time, the college and the NFL playbook is starting to bleed together nowadays. But you mean to tell me I'm supposed to be remotely nervous about a defense with a new DC, and y'all coming off of a season where y'all defense wasn't respectable at all? And on top of that, the Philadelphia Eagles offense was still top 10 through all the struggles. That's another part that we talked about. The offense was still top 10 through all the struggles they had. Listen to this real quick, LB, because this is the part that people got to understand. And look, 2023 stats are 2023, but that's all we have as of right now until the season gets a little bit deeper into the mud here. But think about this. Through all the struggles, the Eagles offense still top 10. They were ranked 7th in scoring, 9th in total yards per game, and 9th in rushing yards. Now, the passing offense was pretty mediocre because of the incongruency between head coach and quarterback, because of the lack of answers, because of the fact that teams were literally all out blitzing the Philadelphia Eagles, and Nick Sirianni had no answers for his quarterback and no answers for his personnel. And the reality is Jalen Hurts had to carry that offense and had to really rely strictly on talent with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and those guys. So this is a new look offense. This is an offense with somebody who actually knows what they're doing, who's very creative. You said it earlier. Kellen Moore exploits matchups. That's how the Dallas Cowboys have had 2 number 1 offense through his tenure. So we got to be honest about what it is. And both defenses in this game have a lot to prove. Eagles defense and Packers defense alike.
I agree with that. And also another caveat that people are not talking about with this game right here is this will be the first game in Jalen Hurts' career where he's calling his own protections. You know what I mean? So the game should look so much different. He's calling his own protections. You know, Kelsey has been calling a protection for the last 10 years as the center for the Philadelphia Eagles. So almost every quarterback that, you know, he has snapped the ball to. You know what I mean? Whether it was Nick Foles, whoever it was, Kelsey was responsible for calling the protections. You know, Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback in the National Football League. Probably the only elite one that didn't call his protections due to the greatness of his center. So now Jalen Hurts has added responsibility. You know what I mean? He has things that he looks for now, you know, the pre-snap motion. A lot of people are not talking about that. The pre-snap motion will answer questions for Jalen Hurts before the ball is even snapped, whether the defense is in man, whether the defense is in zone. That's mainly what pre-snap motion is for, to uncover, you know what I mean, a little bit of the disguise that's in front of the quarterback. So this will be totally new from last year.